welcome to the first ever episode of the Content Clubhouse podcast presented by The First Call. My name is Nathan Moore, and I'm so excited to welcome you inside the grill room for conversations with the next generation of golf media and those that are driving the game forward. Like it or not, the golf landscape has changed forever, and it's constantly evolving every single day. Gone are the days where the professional game was all that mattered, and as seen in the recent Creator Classic, there are now dozens, if not hundreds, of golf personalities all over the world reaching totally new audiences through social media and the internet, many of whom are now more well known than the average PGA Tour player. I mean, not to throw any shade, but if Jacob Bridgman is walking alongside Grant Horvat in an airport, who do you think is going to get stopped more often? But while this corner of the golf industry is growing faster than ever, there's still so much about these creators, these personalities that we don't understand. So every other week, we'll welcome in the YouTubers, social media stars, podcasters, storytellers, and everyone else to take us inside their world and look at the unseen reality of making a 21st century career out of the game that we love. And hopefully we'll have some fun along the way. So with that said, here is our chat with the very first guest in the Content Clubhouse, Canada's very own Caton Bittner. All right, welcome to the Content Clubhouse podcast, where I'm thrilled to be joined by a very brave volunteer who's offered to be the first guest in the grill room, my guy, Caton Bittner, Toronto's own. Caton, I'm going to try so hard to overcome my southern accent and properly pronounce the T's in your name, not Caton Bittner. So call me out, please, if throughout this I get it wrong. But thanks for coming on, man. How's it going?
Not too bad. I say Caton as well. Just like we don't say mountain, we say mountain. So the southern accent works well for me. I'm good though, man. How about you?
Good, man. Again, thanks so much for coming on. And yeah, so again, Content Clubhouse podcast, first ever episode. Just kind of take us through a little bit for those unlike me who haven't had the pleasure of playing a few rounds with you up north and kind of getting a look into your relatable golfer kind of style, right? You know, you show just as many chunks, water balls, shanks as you do eagles and birdies. Although having played with you, I'm not sure you're going to be too much, relatable for too much longer if your game keeps getting better. But for those who aren't familiar with your content, can you kind of explain your style a little bit and the lane that you inhabit in this ever-growing corner of the internet that is golf content creation?
Yeah, so I kind of started by creating YouTube videos, and my YouTube videos weren't doing all that well. And this was probably during COVID. I was kind of getting bored, and so I figured I'd pick up. I think I was watching Random Golf Club, the YouTube channel. I'm like, I feel like kind of doing this. So I started creating YouTube videos, and it was a good learning curve, learning how to edit and all that stuff, learning how to do a shot tracer, which took me too long to admit to learn how to do. And the YouTube videos weren't doing that well. So I kind of turned to Instagram. I was wondering maybe I can get followers or some views from Instagram funnel to my YouTube page. And then, quickly humbled in the fact that I was basically trying to post all my birdies and eagles and quickly ran out of content because I probably had one every four rounds of golf. And so I kind of bit the bullet a bit, put my ego aside, and started showing some of my blow up holes, like me shooting a 10 and duffing shots off the tee. And to my amaze, people found that very relatable because everyone kind of shows on social media, their best side of themselves. And so it was kind of a refreshing thing for someone to pop up on your feed and showing them, or showing myself, not having a good hole. And so those videos started doing well. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe there are people who actually enjoy this side of things, not just showing the beautiful birdies, eagles. And started posting those, and my page started doing pretty well. And as you mentioned, I was starting to get a little bit better at golf. When I started this journey, I was about a 16 handicap. I'm down to around a 7. I think I got down to just below a 6. And so the duffs and all that aren't popping up as much, which is for my soul better, but for my Instagram page, it's those videos are seldom now. But haven't been playing all that much recently, and so my bad game's kind of coming back. So there's a little bit more content on that side. But as a content creator, it's interesting to look at other pages you kind of try to emulate what they have succeeding and working, and you kind of find your lane within it all, and you touch, your little spin, your editing style, whatever it may be, and you kind of find your own little niche within that. And so oftentimes it's a lot of exploring what works for you, what works for your followers, what works for the audience on Instagram. And you kind of just like teeter the line of trying to figure that out constantly. And Instagram does change the algorithm a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of been my journey.
Well, it's good because, as you start to get better, right? I think we talked about this on the course. Like, it's kind of a win-win, right? When you hit a bad shot, you're like, oh, that sucks, but going to be great content, right? Is when you put that out. So that's cool. So, you've gotten into a little bit of your origin story, for lack of a better term. You're from Canada. I know we were talking before we hopped on here. You're down wintering in Arizona like a true snowbird. So happy for you there, as it's pretty cold here in Georgia, believe it or not. But how did you get into the game, being from up north where, not that there's to say there's not a lot of golf in Canada, but it's not like the first place people think of when they think golf destinations, right? And, how did you get into golf? And then when did you first really decide, okay, you know what, I think I'm going to try to post videos of my swing on the internet?
Yeah, got into it fairly late in life. My dad, my parents were buying this new house, and it was about 15 minutes away from my old house. So we moved when I was 15 years old. But when I was about 13, 14 years old, the house that my parents bought was getting constructed. And my dad loved going there, watching what's going on, watching them excavate and go from ground up. And across the street from there was this golf course called Remington Parkview, which is a bit of a goat track, but it's a fun little track for young guys. And so my dad would drop my brother and I off at the golf course, and it would basically be our babysitting for a few hours, and he'd go check out the site. And we did that for about a year or so, a season or so. And then we moved into that new house when I was about 15. And I think about 15 or 16, I got my first job at a private golf course right across the street from that new house, and worked there for about 4 years in the back shop. So I was cleaning clubs, driving the range picker, and we got free golf. So I go out for 9 holes 4 times a week, and that's kind of where I fell in love with it. And then kind of took a bit of a hiatus from golf for a bit. And then COVID hit, and I started, like a lot of people, started picking it back up again. And yeah, I kind of got bored. I think I was mentioning that I was kind of getting bored during COVID. And so I was watching Random Golf Club, and I saw him creating these videos, and I'm like, you know what, I can do that. And so that's kind of where I started just kind of putting myself out on the internet, which was, there's a bit of a interesting internal dilemma oftentimes. Without any social proof, you're kind of nervous to put yourself out on the internet and expose yourself, especially when you're not very good at golf. So that was an interesting time period, and you learn to, I don't know if we can swear on this, but you learn not to give an F, and you just kind of just like put yourself out there. If people like it, people like it. If people don't like it, well, block them or just don't watch my videos. And yeah, you learn to have thick skin. Thankfully, my channel for the most part, has pretty good reception from the public. People, because they can relate so much, and they realize that I'm kind of exposing myself by putting myself out there and showing my bad side. The comments have been pretty good for the most part, but if I get a comment, I just block the person. I don't need that in my life.
For sure. Yeah. That's one of the things I think a lot of people don't realize or think about with these creators, right? Is probably how many of these comments you guys actually do see, or it does reach you. And it's definitely, I'd imagine one of the common misconceptions about, being a creator of any sort, much less a golf one. So kind of along that line, as I've gotten to see firsthand playing with you and kind of seeing the process that goes into it, lots of editing, way more shooting and deleting videos that honestly don't work out, whether something goes wrong with it or what have you. So what are some of the things that, the average person consuming your content may not realize about the business that you found yourself in? Maybe it's something that's harder than people think, or, perhaps more monotonous, because it seems super glamorous from this side of the screen. But tell us a little bit more about the side that people don't.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of it all, it's just a hobby, right? And so you're just creating these videos because it's fun. you're hoping to get followers, whatever it may be. But I guess I've been at this for almost 5 years now, or 4 years. So the monotony side of it is definitely something I struggle with a bit, because there, when you first start seeing views do well, or start seeing videos do well and you get views, you kind of try to emulate that idea because you want that to keep the ball rolling. But after a while, either the views start dwindling or your whatever it may be, and it is hard to I'm kind of going through that struggle a little bit. I'm trying to get the itch back a bit, but it does get monotonous for sure. And yeah, I think you just have to. The constant struggle is you want to do things that succeed, but you also want to be creative. The creative side of things is what really gets your blood going, or at least mine, at least. The creative side of things is what's really fun to me. And so when you start to lose that creativity, when it starts to get monotonous, you start to get out of touch a bit and start to not enjoy it as much. And so for me, that's been the biggest struggle. Obviously, the shot tracer editing time that they take, for me, I use After Effects. A lot of people ask me that question, what I use for my shot tracer. So I use After Effects, and it takes a long time to kind of create those shot tracers, but I think they look pretty good.
Yeah,
there's obviously
other. If you had to put a number on it, Caton, just like roughly speaking, let's just call it one hole's worth of shots. Let's say you play it well, you par it, 4 shots. Roughly how long is it going to take you to kind of put the tracer up on that?
The tracer, maybe each tracer can take 5 to 10 minutes max. So if I'm doing a par 4, there's going to be 2 shot tracers, hopefully, unless I duff one off the tee. There's going to be the tee shot, the iron shot, and then there's either a chip and a couple putts or whatever. So I'd say on average about a whole vlog would be about an hour with the voiceover, the editing, the exporting, the downloading, putting the comment or putting the description on Instagram, video tags, all that stuff.
Wow. Yeah. So definitely, again, more kind of to it than meets the eye, but you've also gotten the chance through a lot of that hard work to do some really cool stuff. I'd love to count our trip to Giants Ridge up in Minnesota as your number one, although I doubt that's what it is, having seen some of your content. But, you've worked with some of the biggest events on the PGA Tour, the Waste Management Open, stuff closer to home for you up in Canada. So you've partnered with Genesis Canada to do some really cool things. What was, I guess, is there a moment, a playing partner or a place you were playing golf or something where you turned and looked around and was like, wow, how did me posting silly golf videos on the internet bring me to this place?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it is hard to pick one because I've had the opportunity to play such awesome courses. That is definitely one of the main upsides to doing this is, some of these golf courses aren't cheap to play. And so a lot of them do get, a lot of them we get comped. Actually, one that I didn't get comped, I got partially comped actually, was Cabot, Cape Breton. So there's 2 courses out near Halifax, and was it Inverness? Yeah, I think it's Inverness. So those are the 2 top ranked golf courses in Canada, right along the ocean. Played in June, and it honestly couldn't have asked for better weather. Oftentimes when you're along the ocean, it's super windy, but we got lucky. Sun was shining, and I think they're like even top 5 public courses in the world or something like that. They were absolutely stunning. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten to play a few top 100 public courses in the U.S. even. Rams Hill, I'm actually headed there in a couple of weeks again. That's a beautiful track out in like near Palm Springs. The Genesis Open for the President's Cup was pretty cool. That was a great experience. It is a bit of one of those things where you taste a nice bottle of wine and you can't go back to a box wine. You get first class in an airplane, you can't go back to economy. It's one of those things. So the experiences are great, there's no doubt, but you do get blessed and you do get spoiled a bit. But it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is you're now kind of when you're having to hit the local muni with your buddies, you're just like I guess like if I have to.
Yeah. I'm not pulling the camera out if there's a bunch of hazard or hydro wires lining the golf course.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a good question too. So, you know, you hear from a lot of pros, right? And they say like they don't really play a whole lot of golf necessarily for fun, right? Just because it is their job. It's so taxing. They're on it, almost week in, week out. So when they're home, they might play a little bit of golf, but not a ton. A little bit different for a content creator like yourself. It's not a constant, slog like it is on the PGA Tour. But at the same time, do you take a lot of time to play golf with your buddies or not take the camera out? Is that something you still try to fit into your schedule as much as possible, or is it most of the time when you're on the golf course you're filming something?
Yeah, so it's probably about 80%, I'd say, but it also depends on a few factors. One is, do I have any deliverables to do? I have to often wear polos and get a certain amount of videos out a month. So if I have a bunch saved up, maybe I'll have an enjoyable round where I don't take the camera out, because it does add a bit of I don't even want to use the word stress, but it's just a little bit more work to bring the camera out there, having to set the tripod up every time and etc. And then it also depends on the golf course I'm playing. But I actually haven't even played golf in almost a month right now, which is wild for me. Like I said, I was kind of just I need a little bit of a break to kind of get the itch back, and I discovered pickleball, which is an awesome sport. I don't know if you've ever played it, and I'm absolutely hooked on it. But yeah, it really depends on deliverables, the course. If the course is nice, I'm bringing the camera out. And if I'm playing like in a tournament, with buddies, 20 buddies or whatever, I probably won't bring the camera out very often. But it is a bit labor intensive and exhausting bringing the camera out, because I do have a heavy camera. I don't really use my phone as a tripod, so it's a bit of a hassle. But I'd say on average, probably 80% of the rounds I play, I bring the camera
out. Gotcha. Well, of course, you do more than just that one camera. So when we were up in Giants Ridge, you blessed us with your drone photography and videography, which is really cool. Kind of that more creative side that you share on your other account called Bit Snaps. That's definitely more of that golf course architecture, beauty shots, what you think of when you think of the guys like Patrick Koenig and Evan Schiller, and those guys who've really built up a following posting just really good golf course photography. So what's kind of the motive behind that? Are you scratching a different creative itch, so to speak, with that?
I think so. I think I first started off by creating YouTube videos. I have these awesome drone shots. I do a whole flyover, get each hole before I play the hole, or beginning of the hole, and I'm like, some of these shots are pretty cool. And then I learned a bit of like, I'm by no means a great photographer or cinematographer, but it is one of those where I'm like, this is fun. It's very like creative, artsy, whatever you want to call it. And it was cool to really show off some of these golf courses, because I had a bunch of this footage, and now I was just taking my camera out as well and getting additional shots. And it's cool to show a golf course, a little bit differently than more of a static kind of, here's the hole I'm about to play, and then me playing the hole. This is kind of just showing off the holes, the beauty of golf courses. Because, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people have drones. A lot of people capture drone shots on a golf course, but there's literally like a million different ways you can shoot a golf course. So kind of put your own little touch, your own editing style, your own LUTs or whatever it may be. And yeah, it was just honestly just scratching another itch. I thought I was playing these awesome courses, and I'm like, I have this footage. Let me just start compiling a bit of it and posting it on my photography page. And honestly, is one of those things where it does help kind of show off a little bit more of like what I can bring to a golf course, to say, hey, I'm thinking about coming out here date. I'd love to post some social stuff on my main account, but I also have this photography page that I'd love to get some shots for you and use however you'd like. And so it was one of those things where it just adds another element of, another element of like why I should come out to your course.
We'll spin it forward here quick with one more kind of deeper question, and then we'll finish off with a couple of quick ones that mostly I'm just interested in. But kind of looking forward, right? Like you said, you've been at this for a few years now. You've built up, a significant following. You're probably, like people talk about in the world of golf, right? Like if they say if you can break 100, you're already in the top 10% or whatever of golfers, right? Well, like you have a significant following, and it's already probably in the top 1%, honestly, of people who ever take their phone out and film themselves playing golf. But it's also not nearly the size of a lot of the other people's you might see, like a Grant Horvat or others of that kind of nature. So what's kind of the end goal for you? Are you just out there having fun and kind of see where it takes you?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been one of those people that has like a 5-year goal or like kind of, I'm not the biggest planner in my uh, personal life and professional life. So I don't really have a goal. I think oftentimes you can let yourself down with that. And on social media, you can't really structure a goal because often goals are related to, the views and the followers and all that. And so sometimes it's just like winning a lottery ticket on your videos. You think it could do well, it just doesn't do well. You think this one's okay, it's going to be okay, and it takes off. It gets 10 million views, whatever it may be. So it's kind of hard to put a goal on it. I think a goal that I do have is kind of just enjoy it again, because it does, when you have the business side of the golf stuff, it takes away from your enjoyment a bit. And so you get a little burnt out, you get a little bored, monotonous, like we talked about. And so I think the creative side of things brings out the enjoyment a bit more. And so yeah, I don't really have a goal, but I would love to obviously grow the following. I've been doing a lot of kind of funny content as well. I have a buddy back home named Blake, and he's a little person. We do some hilarious content together. So that stuff is really fun. You get to be super creative. The views are insane. And the more eyes you get on your channel, the more possible partnerships and collabs you get with companies. And so a lot of good stuff comes from that. And it's good to put smiles on people's faces. Everyone's laughing or liking the video, sharing it to their buddies. So that stuff is really fun. So I think adding a little bit more of like the funny stuff, adding a little bit of the golf vlogs, and just having fun again is my main goal. And obviously to sustain this business, because golf is a bit of it's super seasonal, right? So it's hard to get a bunch of brand deals through the winter time, but then they all flood in spring, summer. And so kind of have to bank a bunch of your success during the summers and kind of ride that for a bit over the winter during the off season. But yeah, the goal is to, have fun, keep the business afloat, and just enjoy the ride, because not everyone gets to have this cool experience in life. So definitely blessed.
Well, that brings up real quick, something that I hadn't even thought about in terms of these partnerships. It sounds like they are pretty seasonal, which I guess I never really considered that these weren't like year-long things or 6-month long things or whatever. So generally speaking, are kind of most of what you're doing pretty short term, and you're having to constantly kind of keep an eye out for new opportunities?
Definitely keep an eye out for opportunities. Some brand deals have a retainer basis for a year. Some of them have trial basis. Some of them have 3-month deals, and some of them are just one-off videos just to feature products or whatever it may be. So it really depends on the deal, but sometimes I have retainer styles that are like, okay, just for the golf season. And I completely understand that, because 80% of North America is snowing right now. So I understand from their point of view that they don't want to invest a bunch of money into the off season when views and people aren't just going to be buying product. And then, yeah, there's retainer styles where like work with Breakfast Balls, which is a clothing company that actually just came to an end. So I worked with them for 2 years. So they're showing off their polos, and that was a retainer style contract where it was a year long per year. And we just do videos depending on what the contract is. And yeah, but for the most part, it's very seasonal. A lot of the one-off things start coming during the regular season, the on season, I guess. And so yeah, it's just kind of getting a bunch of views starting to ramp up again for April, basically, because once the Masters hits, then golf season starts. So yeah, getting as many eyes as I can on my videos is kind of the next goal, and you just hope that the brand deals kind of flood in. So
Yeah, man. Well, before we get you out of here, real quick, can you give us a, doesn't even have to be just the best, but can you give us a playing partner you were like, holy crap, like I can't believe I'm playing with this person, or just a really cool opportunity to get to play with? And then as well, if you can build your own, if we got Caton Bittner at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am next year, which PGA Tour Pro would you want to play with?
Oh, okay. Well, to answer the first question, I haven't really had the opportunity to play with anyone super special. But to kind of spin off that, I have a different answer. And it kind of went on to the original question you asked me, like, what was a favorite course or experience? I got to play the Canadian Open last year at Hamilton Golf and Country Club, and it was like 10 days out before the tournament, so it was like the same conditions, same distance, and the goal was to try to break 90. And so I did a couple of YouTube videos of that, which was awesome. I won't break the news of what I shot. Go watch it. But that was a really cool experience because as a Canadian, you can only dream to play in the Canadian Open. I mean, that's the coolest experience ever. And so getting to play that was a really awesome experience. And then to answer your second question, I mean, I think Tiger is a bit of a cop-out answer.
Well, it is a cop-out. I mean, he just had ankle surgery. I don't know if we're ever going to see him again, to be honest. Bad news.
Yeah, he says he's recovering, but who knows? Who knows? At this point, man, like I'm sure he'll be back. He's not going to be in tip-top shape, but everyone's always hoping for another Masters win, of course. But one of my favorite golfers, at least to watch on YouTube, is Bryson. I just think his channel is doing great things. He'd be a cool person. Outside of golf or inside of golf?
Either way, take it any way you want.
I mean, he doesn't even play golf, but a cool person to play golf with would be Joe Rogan. It'd be hilarious.
Definitely would be an interesting round for sure. The pace of play on that one might be pretty tough because we just wander off on something, but that's cool. Well, cool, man. Thanks so much again for being on, for being guest number one in the Content Clubhouse. So good luck with everything. And for those listening again, check out Caton Bittner on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. That's CatonBittner. Also his more artistic side, drone side at Bit Snaps. And yeah, anything else you want to plug before you get out of here?
No, man, I just want to thank you for the opportunity and wish you the best of luck in this journey. It's going to be, hopefully you get to have some cool chats with a lot of great people. And I think there's a lot to explore on this side of the golf world. PGA Tour is obviously being captured pretty well with the Full Swing series and all that stuff, but the content side of things is kind of not overlooked, but it's a cool little insight to see how people and content creators actually feel about what they do. So best of luck with everything, man, and I hope to talk to you soon.